Anyhow, let's go in depth, shall we, on a headline that I read last week that got overshadowed by the fact that every presidential contender in America decided to come to North Carolina. Here it is. This was the headline. Supreme Court unexpectedly upholds provision prohibiting racial gerrymandering. This was unexpected because most of the justices are conservative and because gerrymandering is a difficult thing to prove. But the court found that Republicans in Alabama drew their voting districts unfairly and diluted the voting power of black communities there. So they have to redraw them, creating new headlines like this one over the weekend. Shockwaves, how a Supreme Court decision on Alabama could shake up the 2024 election. Because yes, there are similar lawsuits in Louisiana and Georgia and Texas and Florida and South Carolina. But will those shockwaves ripple to us here in North Carolina? After all, our courts decided Republicans here drew the maps unfairly before a new court then moved in who had more conservative judges and then revised that decision and said, never mind, it's cool. Saying our Constitution expressly, expressly, I got it, assigns the redistricting authority to the General Assembly subject to explicit limitations in the text. Those limitations do not address partisan gerrymandering. And all those other words didn't matter as much as the partisan gerrymandering part. And I nailed those ones. You see, not all gerrymandering is considered cool. But if it deals with drawing districts for political parties, then yeah, courts really don't think it's their place to weigh in, which has consistently been the stance of the U.S. Supreme Court as well. So why did they intervene in Alabama? Well, because that case dealt with racial gerrymandering, which is against the Voting Rights Act. And North Carolina's maps don't pertain to that part of the law. Professor Shaw at UNC explained it to me like this.
Even though, as we all know, there's a strong overlap between race and partisanship. But you're right, there's different standards that apply, and in federal court, and now even in North Carolina, since the reversal by the North Carolina Supreme Court on the issue of whether the state court can entertain issues of partisan gerrymandering. I think that it could have implications. Keep in mind, and you just referred to it, there's partisan gerrymandering, which the Supreme Court of the United States has said is not justiciable. In other words, the federal courts won't decide those kinds of cases, won't entertain them. On the other hand, there's racial gerrymandering in which the courts have to hear.
It is really hard to make gerrymandering interesting. I really tried. Let me know if you have questions, if there's anything that you're curious about. I do have a surprising amount of knowledge about gerrymandering. I mean, for instance, did you know it's actually pronounced Gary-mandering, named after a founding father named Elbridge Gerry, who first tried the tactic by drawing a map that the press said looked like a salamander. I think if salamanders looked like they came from Middle Earth. So now you could sound smart at a party. You could say things like, you know, it's actually pronounced gerrymandering. And you might be wondering, who in the world would ever talk about something like that at a party? And now you just sound like my wife on our way home from the party. Either way, let's nerd out together. Let me know what interests you. What do you want to know more about? Please send me an email, dan@wrl.com. Tell me what's on your mind, and we'll go in depth.